time, I'd like to invite Mr. Bruce Cropscott to please come forward. And Bruce is going to share a few words, and we have a gift to present, which is going to be mounted inside of this church next to the official church charter. Yeah.
As you know, we are honoring Pastor Wicker today, our founding pastor of First Congregational Church of Naples, who started this great mission in the year 2004. I'm sure that many of us here today became members of this church because of Les. This is truly the Miracle Church, which is the title of the book that Les wrote regarding the establishment and growth of the church. In the preface to that book, Pastor Wicker appropriately quoted Jesus in the book of Matthew, who said, "With men it is impossible, but with God all things are possible." With God's help, I am sure that the members of this church and Pastor Serber will be able to build upon the strong foundation that Pastor Les has helped establish here at First Congregational Church. We miss Les, and we give our best wishes to Les and his very supportive wife, Phyllis, for all that they have done for this church, and we wish them health and happiness in retirement. With the plaque that the church is presenting today, this plaque will be hung, as Pastor said, at the entrance to the sanctuary. And this plaque is in honor of Les' service to the church and to share his legacy with those who worship here now and in the future. We thank you, Les and Phyllis.
Amen. Pastor Les, would you like to come all the way to the stage, or would you like me to bring the chair down? Whichever you prefer. Okay.
What a special day this is. I can't believe all of you are here. Friends of my life, people who have been here, some all the way to make this church what it is. I'm often reminded of the words of George Shinn, who was the first owner of the Charlotte Hornets. He said, "No one rises higher than others will lift him." In terms of ministry and what has happened here over these years, such words are true. There's so many people to thank. I wouldn't even know where to start. But it's most gratifying to me and to Phyllis to see all of you here. So happy to see Looney here. Yeah. I know they came all the way across the Florida Peninsula to be here. And I see that things are going very well for Looney and her operations, and Mom, who've been so faithful to get her to the surgeries all the way to the Soviet Union and the Russian doctors. Good for you, Mom. Good for you. This has been an unbelievable journey. I would never have thought in 2004 when we left our church in Wisconsin almost on a limb, and were invited to start a church here in Naples, Florida. I would never have dreamed that all of this would happen. And it didn't happen because of me. It happened because of you. And the way you put your arms around Phyllis and me, and you embraced this journey, this church. I don't know what to say, but it was an unbelievable journey. As Robert said about Phyllis, she's been a part of a long journey, long journey of ministry. She's always been there, always sung in the choirs wherever we were, worked in the Sunday school, worked in women's work, women's retreats, whatever was asked of her. But in 2004, when we were invited to come and start the church, she laid down her life there, boarded a plane, not knowing what was going to happen, how things would be. We only knew on Tuesday that she was supposed to come and be interviewed for teaching jobs, and she hadn't taught school for 6 years. She boarded that plane in Milwaukee, and I remember seeing the plane fly through the clouds and wondering what on earth is going to happen. But we stayed in close contact for 6 weeks. She came back for the closing Sunday at our church there, and someone took her back to the airport because she had to be in the classroom the next day. But there's no way to thank Phyllis. She taught school for 6 years to ensure we would, or 7 years, to ensure we'd have some income. But as far as the church, here I never doubted for the first time whether or not this church would make it. No one ever told me that new church starts don't make it. Usually 80% go under the first year. But I knew that the people who were here and who would stand with me would ensure this church was going to make it. And there was no way under the sun we would ever accept the possibility of failure. It just wasn't going to happen. And this story is a story about hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people who stepped up to the plate, did remarkable things, unbelievable things, to make a success of this church. I do always remember, in speaking of Phyllis, the verse found in the book of Proverbs 31:10. A good wife, who can find her? She's more precious than rubies, and she is. First Sunday was October 3, 2004. Pelican Marsh School. We had no clue how many people would show up, or if anyone would. Put an ad in the paper, opened the school cafeteria. Jacqueline and Donna were there, and as time began to pass towards 10 o'clock, we wondered, is anybody coming? It was Art and Jackie were there with the flowers. But people began to dribble in until that first Sunday there were 52 people. I couldn't even believe all the people who came. And so many of those people just stuck with the church all the way. I know in our country today. There's so much said about race. Our country's going to have to resolve this problem. We cannot judge people in any way by the color of their skin. Never. But I would have to say, so far as our church is concerned, from the very beginning, everyone was welcome. And everyone was made to feel a part of this congregation. And that's just the way it's got to be. And the blessings of people of color, what they brought to this church is beyond words. So that's the identity of this church. It's a church where you don't turn people away. You embrace them and you hold them up. And perhaps part of the success of the church is its openness to all people. In the spring of 2005, we had 3 major gifts. April, the Bennett's gave the church $100,000, followed by Roland Honesty, another $100,000, and then followed by Bob Fisher. So when we went to Kansas City to meet with the Committee of Church Development, they were in complete disbelief that a church that was just started in October would have over $300,000 in its treasury. But it was because of the generosity of these people. Art and Jackie were the delegates to Kansas City, and they were there meeting with the Church Development Committee. I will never forget that meeting and how much disbelief the committee had, because they never had a church get off to the start that this church did. And from that point on, it was just unbelievable. But the first miracle was the first Sunday, October 3rd, 2004. A man came to that service, son-in-law of Donna Lynn, only time he's ever been to the church, because he lives in California. He handed me an envelope. He said, "Les, this will help you get the church started." So when I got home and opened the envelope, it was a check for $20,000. That was the first of miracle after miracle after miracle that just kept happening. I'm so proud to see our music student from Ave Maria sitting behind me here this morning. A little story about Ave Maria. One day I got an advertisement from a realtor that their old campus was for sale. You could buy all of their part of it. So I thought, wow, a ready-made church, we'll just buy that church. So we did everything to present ourselves to those we needed to talk to, proposal, but they ultimately wanted to keep it for other purposes for the university. But I did take Velma to lead us over to see the beautiful chapel. I always remember her words, "We just got to have this." And I said, "Thelma, it would take a gift angel for us to get this." And without blinking an eye, Thelma said, "Would $1 million help?" And I about fell over. And I said, "I think so." So she pledged right there on the spot that amount towards the purchase of that chapel. But after the university decided to keep it for their own needs, Phyllis said, "I'll still make it good, provided you start building by the end of 2008. Well, this was 2006, that was a long ways away. So we said, of course, why not? So we signed the document, she made a pledge, and as the months went by, we kept meeting with the planning board, the commissioners. Zoning wasn't going quickly. December 2008, there was a house here, and we painted that house inside, rented it out. The family attended the church. But in December, we got a wrecking crew come and tear down the house. And we told them we've started, and she knew we were pulling her leg, but she said it's good, and she made her pledge good, and we couldn't have made it without her generous gift. Rezoning was, it was a job to get land rezoned. I'd never been a part of any building project anywhere, didn't know anything about zoning or building permits, but Boyd and I, Larry Edward, met with the planning board time and time again, as well as the commissioners. I always find something, you need to correct this, you need to correct that. So it was a job. But I always remember the words of our engineer. We had to have something this land was in the Golden Gate Estates, and to get it out of that project rezone, I had to go to Tallahassee. And the engineer said, well, I can't have it ready. It was April 25th. It's impossible to have the documentation ready. But Larry he'd worked on projects before in other places. And he said, don't ever tell me anything's impossible. So he himself did the necessary drawings and documentation. The county office was closing at 5 o'clock. And Larry walked in at 4:45, handed them the documents that were to be sent to Tallahassee, and they were approved. Otherwise, it would have been an entire year, and I'm not sure the church could have hung on another year. The architect of the church is a Christian man named Al Sanders Mark. Al was actually a grafter more than he was not an architect, but he knew how to do drawings. One architect made $140,000. But the builder, the Walker, said, well, we know somebody. So Al did the drawings for the church for $25,000. And the builder and all the subcontractors said they had never had a better set of drawings. During that summer, Al did call me because everybody's gone. He says, anything you want? He said, now's the time to get it. I said, well, yeah. I want to be sure we have congregational looking windows, rounded at the top, and not very large. He said, you got it. So the large windows are a gift from Al, and they do reflect the light into the church in a remarkable way. He said, anything else? Yeah, I said, let's put a tall steeple on it. How tall do you want it? Well, as tall as we can make it. So remember, we were before the planning board one day, and a lot of discussion about how tall the steeple was, so they called a recess. And one of the members of the planning board came to me and he said, how tall do you want that steeple in the recess? And just from memory, I said, well, about 75 feet. He said, you got it. So when the session came back in, he made the motion 75 feet, but don't tell anybody it's a few feet higher than 75. I never told the county that. Dave Walker was our builder, did a wonderful job, just unbelievably nice people. Opening Sunday was in 2009, never forget that. We had 365 people here. This church was embraced, not just by the members, but by the extended community. Everyone was excited about the new church. And many of those people who came that Sunday came back and made us a part of their faith journey. I would say on that particular Sunday, we had some people here. They were here on our first Sunday that we had an attendance over 100. It's called the Gospel Choir at the Church of the Open Door. I knew these folks from the past. It was all black gospel choir. And they came for our opening Sunday. And they came back often. Wonderful people. I wish you could have heard them. But they sang on our opening Sunday, drove all the way over from Miami. They were here on the first Sunday that we had over 100 in January 2005, which we had 143 people in the service that day. It was just kind of unbelievable. But they've always been in our corner. And I wish in our country we could have the kind of relationship and races that we have with the gospel choir and the Church of the Open Door. They were always there for us. Tim Williams, the leader, passed away. Laverne Crones passed away last year. So the gospel choir is, doesn't have enough people to come together, but just know that in the life of this church, what a very, very important role these people play. In fact, the Sunday they sang in the school, Ed Jenkins saw our ad in the paper, and he thought, that's the kind of church I'd like to attend. And he and his wife Claire did come, and they made our church their church home. A little story about a lady, Margaret Bowman. You may have seen her picture in the groundbreaking. Margaret had terminal cancer. She and her husband drove all the way from Marco Island to be here. And someone asked her about opening Sunday. And she said, "Oh, I'll be there. I'll just be flying over as an angel." And she did pass away before our opening Sunday. I'll tell you about a neighbor of ours when we lived in Stonebridge. He lived around the corner, and I heard that he had cancer. So I went to see him. His name is John. John never came to the church for a worship service. But I went with John. John was a gay man. It's commonly known that he was gay. I took him for his first visit to the oncologist. I visited him in the hospital. I would often visit him, just walk around the corner, and spend some time with John, and try to give him strength and encouragement. John started giving the church support. Before he passed away, he gave the church $45,000. The steeple of the church cost $45,000. So when I see this beautiful steeple, I call it John's steeple. There was another man named Dan Bannister. Very few people would know Dan. I think the people who met in school knew Dan. I married he and his wife. I didn't know anything about him, but he asked me, where's your church? And I was embarrassed to say, I don't have a church. to eat in a school cafeteria. He said, that's okay. And he said, I will be there. Well, I had a lot of people tell me that, but a few weeks later, where he had Saunders seated in those plastic chairs. And he would stand up and give such testimonies that would just tear your heart out. And so finally he was in the hospital in Georgetown. And the trustee said, it would be a good idea to go visit Dan. And I did. I got a ticket. Went to Washington. Found Dan. And was with him about 20 minutes. And as I was leaving, he said, I want you to do my funeral. Well, you know, that's to catch you off guard. You know, when I think about people passing away. And I said, well, Dan, I hope you're here a long time, but just in case, you know, how honored I would be. He died the following Saturday. I flew back. Around 2,000 people there. And we didn't know what a well-known person Dan Bannister was in the greater Washington community. But I think he told Roland one time, he said if he hadn't lost so much money and the turndown of the stock market, he would just build a church for us. And I believe he would. But in the end, he did give the church a gift of $200,000, and that came at what a remarkable time. Gifts came from everyone. Some gifts, no one will ever know who these people are. They're just kind of like they're oblivious, but they love this church, and they wanted to be a part of this journey. So they stepped up to the plate in a way that I just thought impossible, but they did. So what you see today is